Yes. The dulcet tones of somebody we lost this week, Mr. Ahmad Jamal. Yes, the great jazz pianist, composer, band leader, won a Lifetime Achievement from the Grammys some years ago, so rest in peace to him. Scott and the Rev here, 219-885-1371. That number again, 219-885-1371. And this is the last break. Well, not the. This is our last segment. I'm sorry, last segment. So please give us a call. Please give us a call, 219-885-1371. That's 219-885-1371. A lot of interesting things happened in history this week in history. Martin Luther King penned his letter from a Birmingham jail. Yes, it was actually 60 years ago this week. Crazy. Columbine, an insane anniversary. This is the 24th anniversary of Columbine. I remember Columbine like it was yesterday. I was in high school at the time at Emerson, and it seems like that was the turning point, Rev. That was the turning point. Before that, mass shootings were shocking, and it was something that was rare, something that was like, oh my God, I can't believe somebody would, and especially at a school, people would go, oh my God, at a school, and now it seems like a fairly regular occurrence. Oh, I actually agree with our caller who called early on in the show, who talked about how the media influences this. There is a known phenomenon that says basically that when one of these shootings happen and the media covers it in sensationalistic terms, like they show the weapon and they show the shooter, they show the weapon, they show the shooter, and they show all these sirens and cops and all this, that actually glorifies it and makes it more likely to happen very quickly again. And yet the media continues to glorify this, and then they only push the gun thing, but they don't talk about their particular role in it.
Right. Okay, so Columbine was 1999. Before that, if you'd have thought about violence at schools, what would be the image that would most likely come to mind for people?
Well, being here in Gary, I mean, you probably weren't around here at that time.
Right.
Yeah, so,
that would be the year that I moved to California from Las Vegas, 1999, 2000. So before that time, if you talked about violence in schools, what would be the image that would most often come to mind for people?
Well, for me, like I said, living here in Gary,
right?
During the 90s, it was gang stuff.
Gang stuff.
Yeah, we had the gang stuff. We had Horseman. I remember we had I think this was 95, 96.
Right.
A lot of students were shot up at Horseman. They were signing up for summer.
I did not know that.
They were signing up for summer school, Rev. And it was like 5 of them got shot, but it wasn't like it wasn't like some random kid. This was like I said, Horseman. This whole area that we're in right now, 5th Avenue, 5th Block, as it's always been called, was heavily gang controlled during that time period. One of my friends got shot in the neck walking to school at Horseman, just walking to school during that time period. Yeah. So that's the type of violence I was thinking about during the 90s before Columbine at school.
Okay, now, and I'll take you a little further, okay? Movie, Boys in the Hood.
Oh, yes.
Metal detectors in schools.
Mm-hmm.
Which neighborhoods were those most likely to be put in?
In our neighborhoods.
In our neighborhoods. So what I'm getting at is before Columbine, if you talked about violence at schools, the average person would think inner city, urban, gang-related problem.
Mm-hmm.
And as such, guess what? It didn't get much press.
Nope.
didn't make national news, not that we would have wanted it to. Because if it would have been reported, it would have been reported as a black problem.
Yeah.
Then came Columbine. Couldn't blame that on gang violence. Couldn't blame that on, the problem of inner city gangs and
absentee fathers
and poverty and all these other things. Stuff like that's not supposed to happen in schools like Columbine. Nope. And that's why it was such a shock to the system, the national psyche, because that sort of thing doesn't happen in places like Columbine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so now here we are. We just had another one up at a school, and so these things have sort of become part of the culture wars.
Mm-hmm.
That's the unfortunate thing. This is one of the reasons why COVID was so disastrous in America, and why everything becomes, our elections, everything becomes so disastrous, because it all becomes just more fodder for the culture war. Democrats all take one narrative, Republicans take the other narrative, and it just becomes, we're on this side, you're on this side, I hate you, you hate me, so we're going to believe whatever our side believes. And like I said, this pandemic is a perfect encapsulation of what happens with this. It's perfectly, it shows you things like masks became political. Things like the origin of COVID, things like, even whether or not you should get vaccinated or not became very political, and so once again, it's so hard to try to get anything accomplished in this country now, because everybody's sort of entrenched in their particular gang, their particular crew of their political gang, their political crew. And so it's really unfortunate. But what isn't unfortunate, Rev, is the last, I guess, 3 years that me and you have been together since you started here at I guess
it has been 3, huh?
Yeah. 2020, mid 2020 is when, because I started out with Levita Sparks Wade, Kathy Kelly, and Johnny Rucker. We started out together, and Levita Sparks Wade, Kathy Kelly, and Johnny Rucker, and then they left, and then I came, and you've been here since I think about July or June or of 2020. So so I basically spent this entire pandemic with you every Friday. And so we've basically documented how this has gone. And I let me just say, it's been an honor, and I appreciate 100% of what you've contributed here at WLTH and to this show and to my life personally. It's all been, it's all been a pleasure.
You're getting me to blush, man. Black men don't blush. I'm blushing now.
Absolutely.
But thank you. I've enjoyed every Friday night with you. I talked about it this morning. A show that probably, if you'd have just looked at the demographics and all that stuff, you'd have said, oh, this won't work. This relationship will be worse than Oscar and Felix. But it's actually been a wonderful collaboration, and you've really blessed me, man.
Oh.
You really have. You're a Sox fan, I'm a Cubs fan. Yes. You went to Emerson, I went to Word. Yep. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's not a progressive, people. Don't get it twisted. He's a left-wing populist.
Yes.
And I am a conservative.
Yeah.
But I'm a conservative who's that way because I think that the law is right. Not because I think that their Kool-Aid is sweeter or their ice is colder, but just because I think right and wrong is a real thing. That's my conservatism. Right and wrong, justice, injustice are real things.
Old school conservatism.
Yeah. And so you and I actually found ourselves correlating on so much that after a while, I'm like, you know what? That's my ride. That's my ride, dude. I ride with him.
Yes.
And so here we are. Man, 3 years. And I'm grateful to WLTH for giving me the opportunity to do this. I told him early this morning that I'd done gospel radio. I had done Quiet Storm radio. I always wanted to do talk radio, and I had to come home to get the opportunity. At least I can now say I've done it. And to have people say what they've said today, I'm surprised and touched that they would think, as highly as they have, and I thank them for it, because I recognize the only reason this worked is because people participated. People called in, people responded, people expressed themselves. And hopefully you and I talking freed them up to talk. To think, to reason a little bit and come to conclusions that they would express publicly.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. As always, folks, you can chop it up with me on Twitter at The Chemist Lives. The Chemist is spelled with the K, as I am a product of the Gary Community School System. We can always talk about politics, music, sports. You can tell me how terrible I am at this, or you can just watch clips from today's show and every other show on my YouTube page, Scott Cannon WLTH. Now, where are they going to be able to listen to you at Rev, from your sermons and everything?
Well, my sermons will be on YouTube and Facebook. You will, because I do have the WLTH radio app on my phone. You will have an occasional opportunity for me to call in and weigh on the affairs of life here in home, because, if owning land is the basis of all assets and wealth and community involvement, we're not selling our home in Gary. So I will always keep an eye on the greatest city in all the world.
Yes. And you can interact with all of us at WLTH at the new website, WLTHradio.com, Facebook, WLTH Radio, or just tweet at us at WLTH Radio. Even see us on Instagram at, you guessed it, WLTH Radio. And I'll still be here. You can listen to me on a retooled version of Issues and Answers Friday. You have to tune in to next week, because next week is the election extravaganza.
Oh, boy. Yes. I'm definitely going to be calling in on that.
Yes, the Lake County election extravaganza. So for station owner Marion Williams, station manager Natalie Ammons, I am Scott Cannon. This was Issues and Answers on WLTH 1370 AM. God bless the working class. God bless organized labor. And Rev,
God bless you.
For the last time, we're out, humans.